this is gonna be a very different convention from all the other ones, not just strictly ghosts. And you know, well, they did have something about cryptozoology in one of the conventions, but other than that, it's mostly been about ghosts for all the ones I've been to. So this would be kind of different. Have a UFO guy.
Yeah, I thought it was a great addition to our lineup and stuff. So, you know, a lot of people are into that, and I mean, I certainly have a lot of questions also. So it'll be good.
Very cool. All right, so who are we talking with next?
Well, um, well, why don't we talk to Joe? And Joe's gonna fill us in a little bit, and then we'll talk to Frank, and then we'll talk to both of them together, because Frank's subject, which is Camarillo, Joe knows a lot about, you know, so he's been there a lot, and, you know, so why don't we talk to Joe about what he's going to be presenting at the event.
Take it away, Joe.
Hey guys, how's it going? How's it going, Frank?
Very good.
So I'm really excited about this whole thing that's coming up. It's gonna be a blast. I heard a couple references earlier to the idea that you know, there's gonna be a lot of young people, so we have to keep them kind of interested. I think that I don't know that we have to go like that far, but I am going to change up my presentation, especially a little bit. It's going to focus mostly on ITC, but there is going to be other parts to it that I've never done before, and I think some of the things that we're going to bring up and discuss are going to scramble some noodles, or at least make some people think. And some of the things, which I'm not going to really go into too deeply, but some of the things we're going to talk about is the cloud. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot and talking to other people about. And it really kind of, really kind of works with what, was it Brad? It was Brad earlier, right? It was speaking?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Brad earlier. It kind of speaks, it kind of, you start to kind of understand, it kind of like goes over into that section, the idea of this, what he called the Akashic records, or this idea of this cloud that basically holds all knowledge, and we're radios, really. And it's really quite interesting, and I think it's going to be something that, like I said, I've never really touched on before. But I think it's something that needs to be brought up, and it's going to be quite interesting for the kids out there also. But we are going to talk about ITC, definitely, and maybe some other things as far as different theories and stuff that I haven't actually publicly spoken about before, so it should be quite interesting.
Have you noticed lately? Well, I mostly watch Ghost Adventures, but have you noticed they're using what they call the spirit box a lot more lately on the show? Have you noticed that in other TV shows?
I think you're right, Poe. I think, and in reference to ITC, instrumental transcommunication, there was a lot of people for a long time that were on the fence with this, and they would say, you know, I'm not sure if it really works. You know, I'm not gonna state that I believe that it works. There are still a lot of people out there that that don't believe it works and totally dismiss it and think that it's completely ridiculous, and that's fine. For myself and for many others have experienced so many different types of communication and through the box and using that particular medium of radio, that I have no problem stepping out and saying, hey, and I did a while back, you know, I did at least maybe 6 months to a year back say, you know, hey, as far as we're concerned, this works, and we know that it works. Now we've gotten past that point, and we've just kind of been waiting for everyone else to catch up.
Yeah, I think they are, because I see it a lot more and used a lot longer on the shows now than just a little tiny segment, you know. That's pretty good. I did remember you talking before about we lost Frank for a second, about the cloud and how we might be tuning in to certain other people's, when we dream, you were talking about that before. We might tune into other people's signals. That's why we're dreaming, what we're dreaming about.
Well, I think that the way that I've been understanding the cloud a little better is, it's, some people call it the Akashic Record, some people call it the, but basically what we're dealing with is somewhere in the ether. I can't point it out and say this is where it is, or I can't show you exactly where it is. But it kind of explains a lot of things. It explains psychic ability to a certain degree. It explains people that claim reincarnation. It explains a lot of things that we dealt with, with the paranormal, that we had questions about. It kind of like makes everything kind of make sense together. And it's an interesting subject. I think it's definitely one that needs to be brought up, and I think that it's one that'll keep the kids interested, and thinking. And I think that's the important thing, is whenever we go to these conferences, and I'm just coming off the tail end of probably one of the best conferences I ever had gone to, or the ability to go to, which was at the Glen Tavern Inn. And for those people that actually were able to go, that are in the room, I'm not sure if anybody was there, but it was really, really something, because the entire weekend it was all thinking and being fed. And so if we can through what you guys are doing, Frank and Don, if we can recreate that and constantly, go out there and feed people and make them think, and they walk away from the conference feeling like they got something from it, rather than meeting X, Mr. X paranormal rock star, TV star, or whatever. I'm not going to mention any names.
Go ahead.
And I think that people will actually get something, and I think that that's really, going back to one of the first conversations I've had in the community, was our responsibility. And our responsibility is to share, not only share what we know, but to also share our thoughts, and share our experiences, and our ideas, and our hypotheses, and our theories, and whatever we have, with one another, because that's what makes it interesting. That's what constantly keeps us working and moving forward and thinking and trying to push the envelope a little further.
Very cool. Now we're going to be talking to Frank in a second about Camarillo. With between EVPs and ITC in Camarillo, what's the best responses you've gotten, or more intelligent responses? Place like you said, a dark or heavy place like Camarillo.
Us personally, we've gotten, probably one of the most interesting things wasn't necessarily a dark response. It was a time that we were walking. Let me see if I can remember where we were. We were in a section that we don't usually go to, and I believe it was the RT building. And that's part of the hospital. I know that Frank's time, when he went there for years before us, was easily accessible. But during the time that we went, it was kind of out by itself, so it was kind of hard to get to without being detected, let's say. And but one of the times, I believe it was in that building we were in, and we found a lot of scat all over the ground in the hallway, and we were all walking together, and we were talking about what kind of animal could make such large scat. And scat, for those people that don't know, is poop. It was poopy all over the place. It was a poop party in the hallway. I don't know what kind of party that was. Anyway, so yeah, all the scat was over the hallway, and we were talking about it. And this is during the time that we had we had a member on our team who's we're not going to mention any names or anything, who she was, Marsha, and she was with us, and we're talking back and forth. We're like, what kind of animal can make this poop? And it actually, if you guys want to hear this after the show, if you go to 3amparanormal.com and go to the EVP page, you'll hear this. You can find this little EVP, and what it is, it's a female. She's whispering twice back to us after that question's asked. She says, "Coyote, coyote,"
Oh,
and
wow.
it's really clear. And yeah, it was really probably one of the most interesting ones that we got, because we weren't actually doing an EVP session. We were still recording, but so it's interesting. That was an interesting one. There's so many, Poe. There really is so many of them. We got the experiences that we had with pipes. The experiences that we had at the nurses station in the adolescent ward. In 20 what was it, 26. Just the experiences we had in most of those units all over the place. The most interesting place that I've ever gone to and investigated. I just feel very, very lucky that we were able to access these areas for such a long time, and such a concentrated amount of time. I know that we cannot hold a candle to Frank, because he had so many more years before us that he had access to this place. Really do respect him for that, because that took a lot of guts to be able to go into some of those places, and I know what it's like, and I know how heavy it was. So I definitely just very, very lucky that we're able to actually go there and do investigations, and for very concentrated amount of times. Like, we were actually trying to keep count one time of how many times we've been there, and I lost count. We lost count at around 50. So
Wow.
I'm just really glad that we were able to go that many times at least, to this place and experience it, because the entire campus was haunted, and the array of activity would go from disembodied voices, EVPs. They'd be screaming, people throwing up, people actually getting taken over in some of the buildings, literally having to carry people out of the building. Seeing apparitions, seeing pixie lights, just veiling going on, just so many different experiences, and it was just really, really I guess I was told beforehand by always compare it to Camarillo, and that's true. But I think one of the biggest things for us personally was being able to speak to Vernon Montoya, which was a person who went there when he was younger. He was only there for a year, but hearing his stories really, and after being there and hearing his stories, really kind of made sense to me what it looked like, what the whole place was like, what the feel of it was, and why there's still so much activity there.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to investigate Dupar's afterwards.
Well, I wanted to ask Joe one more question before Frank came on. With your ITC, I seen that there's a lot of times a lot of people will get their own name said back to them and stuff. Do you remember the first time that happened, where you heard your name said back to you, and where was it at?
The first time it happened, I believe. The first time it happened, I believe it was in Camarillo, and it really tripped me out, because it was a mind blowing thing. It was like, wow. It was kind of like the feeling like they know who we are, and
Right.
that was really kind of like confusing. So it kind of messed with my head. But I'll tell you what, Don, the one time that messed with my head the most was when I heard my own voice say hello to myself,
Oh,
and
wow.
I responded back to it because I didn't catch it right away. So it's me saying hello to me and me responding hello back, and then realizing that that was my voice, that was really kind of kind of mind blowing. So I kept asking myself, was that me in some other dimension, possibly doing an ITC session, speaking to myself? I don't know. I would just seriously just sit there and think about that, and I could not come up with an explanation. But
do you ever hear like something maybe mimicking you at all during your ITC sessions? Like,
that's a very common thing, is to be mimicked, or there'll be some spirits, and I'm not sure whether they're, most of the time we're dealing with just grumpy human spirits that want to mess with you, and so I think a lot of the times we would hear stuff that would come through and start cussing you out and using language that just is not allowed on standard radio by the FCC. And since we're using these, certain bands that are FCC approved, like AM and FM, it's not something like somebody jumping on a walkie-talkie, because, I mean, realistically, how many times have you heard somebody break through your radio with a walkie-talkie? I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, maybe if they went by that certain frequency, but it's not something that's going to happen, constantly. So, but yeah, that is really a trip when you hear them do that. And usually now what we do is we kind of try to end that session, because this is where the way it works out, guys, is when you're doing ITC and you make contact with a darker spirit, let's say, or a grumpy human spirit, they won't give you a lot of info. They'll just cuss you out and try to mess with you. If you contact a higher spirit, or what I believe is an actual spirit that is passed on, right, that's not stuck like a ghost, but is actually passed on, they give you information, and they are happy to help you. In fact, the other night, we actually did I was lucky enough to be able to talk to a friend of mine who was doing an experiment where he was actually trying to contact, or trying to find out the information for a missing girl. And this girl's been missing in the San Francisco area, and he was actually doing an ITC session and actually trying to contact these higher vibrational spirits, or these spirits that we believe were human spirits but have moved on, and they were giving us information. They were giving them street names. They were giving them names of the person that might have done it. And I was thinking to myself, I told them afterwards, I said, I've always felt that this is one of the ways that ITC needed to start getting utilized, and the proper path for it to go on. One of the proper paths for it to go on. And, because I've always thought ITC is kind of like a medium, allowing just a common person to tap into the same things that, let's say, a psychic does, or a psychic medium. So why not use it for these type of things? And so I thought that was really neat, and some of the early stuff that it might start being used for, which I think I'm going to do more experiments with.
Oh, very cool.
Okay, cool.
Frank, when you were going to Camarillo, the early days, like Joe was mentioning, the RT building was just, I guess, really messed up with dog or wolf, what is it, coyote stuff and things on the floor. Was that like that when you were going in the early days?
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of, like Joe mentioned, a lot of poop and stuff like that on the floor. There was dust. There was just all kinds of things that just accumulated there over the years from not being used. In fact, there was a lot of, just hospital items all over the floor, paperwork thrown all over the floor. That was pretty much it. Broken glass, some of the paint that chips off the wall, things like that basically were all over the floor. That just kind of cluttered the floor.
I've read before on Urban Explorer websites that the most common thing they see is what Joe says is scat smeared on the walls, and things are pushed onto it so it'll stick to the wall like a piece of wood or something like that. Did you see anything like that?